Gab, your assessment of the Clásico?
I mean, I think from Real Madrid's perspective, what we're seeing is that, Zidane treats these games and tailors his team to the opposition, to what he wants to achieve. And, the boys saying that Real Madrid didn't want to lose this game, first and foremost, and they came out and they absorbed the pressure, probably absorbed more pressure than they would have wanted. But then he made the changes, and then Benzema and Vinicius weren't as isolated as they were earlier in the game. And if you go back, Real Madrid's record in terms of keeping clean sheets and not competing goals against Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, it's been pretty darn good since Zidane's been around, going back to last season.
What will strike me from this game is just the fact that there were a lot of eyebrows raised when it was Quique Setién that was named as the manager when Valverde got the sack. And I know that Luis Suarez is out, and I know they've had other injuries, but there was no tactical response, it seemed, to what was going on. What you talked about, the fact they weren't playing out, and in the substitutions that he made didn't make much of a difference. I
mean, there might be a little bit more passing of the ball, and some of the stats from previous games would tell you that, but, I mean, the desperation to get Valverde out, to get a guy in who had less experience, well, certainly at that level, and of that level of club, there's no discerning difference, is there? It's not like sticking out like a sore thumb from one style to the other.
I think what they sold us at the time was just to try and take the pressure off them because they moved Valverde out. They sold us on, this guy's going to change this and that. And so you can't really say, yeah, right, because you've got to give the guy a chance. So I think we all took what they were selling, but now we're seeing that really nothing's changed.
Gab, you made a ooh noise, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I mean, I think it is. It's not good, but it's not. I don't think it's the same as Valverde. I mean, I'm more with Stevie on this point. That endless possession requires chemistry and it requires movement from the front guys. And when you only have two front guys and you have Griezmann, who I don't know if he was hiding as you guys suggested, but certainly wasn't on top of his game, and Messi has an off night, and those guys don't move the way you're supposed to, then all of a sudden it becomes very, very difficult, and you find yourself playing in front of the opposing defense most of the time. And they did create those chances in the first half, and I thought a lot of that was down to individual situations. But then in the second half, when Real Madrid kind of moved their center of gravity a little bit further up the pitch, all of a sudden Barcelona had real issues in even playing out from the back. And Setién had no answer for that.
You get the feeling, obviously, it's going to be a tight title race. It'll go right down to the wire. I suppose it's almost an obvious answer now as to who you think is going to win La Liga off the back of today.
No idea. I don't know. It's swinging from one to the other. Yeah. What we do know is that Atleti are not going to be unlikely to be in the race.
Sure.
Keep dropping points, which is a bit disappointing.
And also it's likely that Real Madrid will have only La Liga to focus on, in a sense that obviously they will go into that Manchester City second leg as big underdogs, as opposed to Barcelona, who've
You've got them out already, lad?
Well, in theory, you would imagine that Barca will get through against Napoli and Real Madrid won't get through against City, so therefore...
Well, if they put on a second half performance, if they put on a performance like they did for periods in the second half against City, it's not a given. But you're right. I mean, they're not favourites to go through, but it's not like a 3 or 4-0 scoreline. So I would say at the moment, because of the cohesiveness and the continuity of the coaching staff in terms of Zidane knows what he wants, he knows his players better, he doesn't have the major injuries that Barca have, or what they cried about. I would say Real Madrid. Not because they've gone top of the league tonight, but just because I think they're a little bit better balanced at the moment.
I mean, I'll kind of go along with that.
But then
not for any other reason than you may be right, they may get knocked out, and if they do, then clearly that will help them. But the truth is, they've been kind of stumbling and bumbling since the start of the season.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Real, but not with any huge amount of confidence.
Last word on this for you, Gab?
I said Real Madrid before this game, and I'm sticking to it. I feel a little bit vindicated Barcelona, I think, also have a bit of a tougher run-in, and I think the boys are right. I think the Champions League, and if Real Madrid do go out, I think that's another check mark for them, despite, of course, Eden Hazard's absence.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.